Jason, listen to these two sentences. I watched that movie. And I have watched that movie. Now, here's the strange thing. Both sentences seem to say almost exactly the same thing. Both tell us that at some point in life, I sat down and watched a movie. So why does English need two different ways to say it?
That's a fantastic question. Because every day, thousands of English learners hear these two sentences and think, wait, aren't they basically identical? And honestly, they look almost identical. But the feeling behind them is completely different.
Exactly. And today, we're going to make that difference feel natural. Not through complicated grammar rules, not through endless charts, but through real conversations and everyday examples. By the end of this episode, you'll know exactly when to say, I watched that movie, and when to say, I have watched that movie.
And trust me, once you understand this difference, you'll start hearing it everywhere. In movies, TV shows, podcasts, and everyday conversations.
Before we begin, let's start with a quick challenge. Imagine you're talking to a friend. Your friend asks, have you seen the new superhero movie? And you want to tell them that you watched it yesterday. Which sentence sounds correct? A, I have watched it yesterday. Or B, I watched it yesterday. Take a moment, think about it, and don't worry if you're not completely sure.
Jason, keep your answer in mind. We'll come back to it later in the episode. And by then, you won't just know the answer. You'll understand exactly why it's correct.
All right, let's jump into today's conversation. And prepare yourselves.
You know what's funny? I have watched 3 movies this weekend.
Wow, that's a lot. I have watched only one movie on Saturday.
Well, the weather was terrible, so I stayed home.
Same. I've stayed home all day yesterday.
Honestly, sometimes that's the perfect weekend. A comfortable sofa, snacks, and a good movie.
Absolutely.
I have ordered pizza Saturday night and watched movies until midnight.
That sounds amazing. I have cooked dinner yesterday, but halfway through, I wished I had ordered pizza instead.
I've had that feeling many times. Wait, was that correct?
I don't know anymore. Now I'm confused.
Speaking of confusion, my friend asked me if I've ever seen that famous science fiction movie, and I told him, yes, I have seen it in 2022.
That sounds right? I think. Maybe? Actually, I'm not sure.
Neither am I. English becomes very suspicious when you think about it too much.
That's true. The more I think about grammar, the less confident I become.
Same here. Yesterday, I told someone, I have gone to the gym last Friday. And they looked at me strangely.
Maybe they were impressed.
I don't think they were impressed.
Fair point.
So, what's your plan for next weekend?
Daniel, how was your weekend?
Pretty good, actually. I have cleaned my apartment yesterday, and after that, I have watched a movie.
Oh, nice. I have cleaned my apartment too last Saturday. It took forever.
Really? My apartment was a disaster. I have spent almost 4 hours cleaning it yesterday morning.
I know the feeling. I didn't ever realize how messy my place was until I started cleaning.
Exactly. And after I finished, I have felt so proud of myself.
Same here. I have finally organized my closet on Saturday, and now I can actually find my clothes.
That's impressive. I did organize my closet once. Maybe 2 years ago?
At least you're honest.
What did you do after cleaning?
I have watched a movie last night.
Oh, really? Which one?
It was that new action movie everyone is talking about.
I have seen it last month.
Did you like it?
Yes, I have liked it a lot. The ending was amazing.
I agree. I have enjoyed it yesterday more than I expected.
My brother hasn't watched it yesterday because he was busy.
Maybe he'll watch it this week.
Probably. I did already tell him that it's worth watching.
Honestly, I don't know yet. But hopefully I don't spend the whole weekend cleaning again. I have cleaned enough this month already.
That's fair. And hopefully I don't watch another movie.
Really? Why not?
Because I have watched so many movies this weekend that I think my sofa misses me already.
That might be the strangest sentence I've heard all day.
Thank you. I have created it this morning.
Well, whatever we do next weekend, let's hope our grammar improves before then.
Agreed. Because right now, I'm not sure if I did improve or if I have improved yesterday.
And that's exactly the problem.
All right, everyone. After listening to Emma and Daniel, I think it's safe to say that they had a very busy weekend. But they also had a very busy relationship with grammar. And the biggest problem we heard was the difference between I did and I have done. So let's start with the simpler one first. I did.
Exactly. And here's the easiest way to remember it. When we use I did, or the simple past tense, we're talking about a finished action in the past. The action is complete. It's over. It's finished. And very often, we know exactly when it happened.
That's the key idea. We usually use I did when we're talking about a specific past time. For example, I watched a movie last night. I visited my cousin last weekend. I cleaned my apartment yesterday. Notice something important. We know exactly when those things happened. Last night, last weekend, yesterday. Those time expressions immediately push us toward I did.
Let's imagine a simple conversation. I ask, "What did you do yesterday?" You might answer, "I watched a movie. I cleaned my apartment. I cooked dinner. I visited a friend." Everything happened yesterday. The day is finished. The actions are finished. So we naturally use I did.
Exactly. Yesterday is one of the biggest clues. Whenever you hear words like yesterday, last night, last week, last month, last year, your brain should immediately start thinking about I did. For example, I watched that movie yesterday. I cleaned my apartment last weekend. I visited my cousin last month. Those sentences sound completely natural.
Now, let's talk about another clue. Specific years. Imagine someone asks, "When did you visit Japan?" You might answer, "I visited Japan in 2024. Notice the specific year. The moment we mention a finished time in the past, we naturally use I did.
Exactly. Let's try a few more examples. I moved to this city in 2022. I started my job in 2024. I watched that movie in 2023. Every action belongs to a clear moment in the past, and that's why I did feels right.
Now, let's travel even further back. Let's talk about childhood, because this is another place where I did appears all the time. Imagine someone asks, "What was your favorite hobby when you were a child?" You might say, "I played soccer every weekend," or "I watched cartoons every morning," or "I rode my bicycle after school." Those activities belong to a finished period of your life.
Exactly. For example, when I was a child, I watched the same movie over and over again. And I mean over and over again. I knew every scene, every line, every song. My family was probably tired of hearing it.
I think every child has that one movie. When I was a kid, I watched an adventure movie so many times that I could practically predict every scene before it happened. And somehow, I still enjoyed it
every single time.
Let's look at another mini story. Imagine it's Monday morning. Your coworker asks, "How was your weekend?" You answer, "I cleaned my apartment on Saturday. I watched a movie on Saturday night. I visited my cousin on Sunday." Notice how every action is connected to a finished time. Saturday, Saturday night, Sunday. The weekend is over. Those moments are finished. So we use I did. Exactly. And that's why Emma's sentence, "I have watched a movie yesterday," sounded strange. Because the word yesterday already tells us we're talking about a finished past time. And when we have a finished past time, we usually choose I did. So the natural sentence becomes, "I watched a movie yesterday."
Let's do a quick recap. Use I did when talking about yesterday. I watched a movie yesterday. Last week. I visited my cousin last week. Last year. I traveled to Goa last year. In a specific year. I watched that movie in 2024. When you were a child. I loved cartoons when I was a child. Any finished action at a known time in the past.
And here's the simple memory trick. If somebody can ask, "When did it happen?" and you can easily answer, "Yesterday, last week, last year, in 2024, when I was a child," then you're probably looking at I did.
Exactly. A finished action at a finished time in the finished past. That's the world of I did.
But now we're about to meet its confusing cousin, the tense that Emma and Daniel kept using everywhere.
All right, everyone. Now we've talked about I did, the tense that loves specific times like yesterday, last week, and last year. And now we're moving on to its slightly mysterious cousin, I have done. And honestly, this is where many English learners start feeling nervous, because sometimes they understand it, and then 5 minutes later, they're completely confused again.
That's true. But here's the good news. The present perfect isn't nearly as scary as it looks. In fact, instead of memorizing complicated grammar rules, I want you to think about 5 simple ideas. Experience, life updates, results now, unfinished time periods, and no specific past time. If you understand those 5 ideas, you'll understand a huge percentage of how native speakers use I have done.
Let's start with one of the most common uses, experience. Imagine somebody asks, "Have you ever visited Paris?" You answer, "Yes, I have visited Paris." Notice something interesting. You're not saying when. You're not saying whether it happened in 2020 or 2023 or last summer. The exact time doesn't matter. The experience itself is the important part.
Exactly. The conversation is about your life experience, not the date. Listen to these examples. I have watched that movie. I have visited Paris. I have traveled by train across the country. I have met a famous actor. All of these sentences tell us something about your life experience.
And we use this pattern constantly. Imagine a friend recommends a movie. They ask, "Have you seen it?" And you answer, "Yes, I have seen it." You don't need to explain when. The important thing is simply that the experience happened.
Now let's move to another huge use. Life updates. These are situations where you're telling someone what's new. For example, I have moved to a new apartment. I have started a new job. I have bought a new car. These sentences feel like updates, news, recent changes in your life.
Exactly. Imagine meeting a friend after several months. They ask, "What's new?" You might say, "I have started learning Spanish. I have joined a gym. I have changed jobs." You're updating them on your life. And that's one reason native speakers use present perfect so often.
Now let's talk about one of my favorite uses. Results in the present. This is where the action happened in the past, but the result matters right now. For example, I have finished my work. The work was completed earlier. But why are we saying it? Because the result is important now. The work is finished.
Exactly. Imagine your boss asks, "Is the report ready?" You answer, "Yes, I have finished it." The focus isn't on when you finished. The focus is that it's ready now. Here's another example. I have already eaten. Maybe you ate 30 minutes ago. Maybe an hour ago. The exact time isn't important. The important result is, I'm not hungry now.
That's such a useful way to think about it. Present perfect often connects the past to the present. Something happened before, and it affects the situation now.
Let's imagine a simple real-life situation. You come home after a busy day. Your roommate asks, "Did you clean the apartment?" You proudly answer, "Yes, I have cleaned the apartment." Why? Because the apartment is clean now. The result exists in the present. Your hard work is visible.
Exactly. Or imagine you're planning a movie night. Your friend suggests a movie. You say, "I've already watched that movie." Again, the important information is not when you watched it. The important information is that you've seen it before. So maybe you want to choose something different tonight.
Now, let's talk about something very important: unfinished time periods. For example, I have watched 3 movies this week. And now we've reached the biggest clue of all. When using I have done, we usually don't mention a specific finished past time. No yesterday, last week, last year, in 2024. Instead, we leave the exact time unknown or unimportant. Jason?
Listen to the difference. I watched that movie last night. Specific time, simple past. But I have watched that movie. No time mentioned. The experience is what matters.
And that's the feeling native speakers naturally hear. One sentence tells us when, the other tells us that it happened.
Jason, let's put everything together. Use I have done for experiences. I have visited Paris. Life updates. I have started a new job. Results now. I have finished my work. Unfinished time periods. I have watched 3 movies this month. Situations where the exact past time isn't important. I have already eaten. Notice something. This week is not finished yet. We're still inside the week. That's why present perfect sounds natural.
Exactly. More examples. I have exercised 3 times this month. I have watched 5 movies this year. I have read several books this week. The time period is still continuing. The week isn't over, the month isn't over, the year isn't over. So present perfect works beautifully.
And here's the memory trick. If the question is, when exactly did it happen? And nobody cares about the answer, you're often looking at I have done.
Exactly. Because present perfect isn't really about the past. It's about the connection between the past and the present.
And now, it's time for the mistake that causes the most confusion of all. The mistake millions of learners make every day when they accidentally mix I did and I have done in the same sentence.
And trust me, once you see it, you'll start noticing it everywhere.
All right, everyone. Now we've reached the mistake that probably causes more confusion than anything else when learning English. And the funny thing is, most learners actually understand I did. They understand I have done, but then they accidentally combine the 2 systems together. And that's when the trouble begins.
Exactly. Think of it like this. Imagine 2 friends. One friend is called simple past. The other friend is called present perfect. Individually, they're both wonderful, but sometimes learners try to force them into the same sentence.
and suddenly everything becomes awkward. Let's look at one of the most common examples. I have seen that movie yesterday. This sentence sounds logical to many learners, and honestly, I understand why. The movie was watched in the past, so have seen feels reasonable. But there's a problem. The word yesterday has already made the decision for us. Exactly. The moment we hear yesterday, our brain immediately jumps to I did. Yesterday is finished, completely finished. No connection to the present is needed. So the natural sentence becomes, I saw that movie yesterday. Simple, natural, perfect.
Let's look at another example. I have finished my work last night. Again, this is a mistake that millions of learners make. Why? Because they're thinking the work is finished. Finished sounds like have finished. And that seems reasonable. But then they add last night. And that's where everything changes.
Exactly. The moment you say last night, you've given us a specific finish time. And specific finish times belong to I did. So the correct sentence is, I finished my work last night. Because now we're talking about a completed action at a known time in the past.
And honestly, this is the biggest secret of today's episode. Specific time words are incredibly powerful. They control which tense sounds natural. Let's look at a few examples. Yesterday. I have watched that movie yesterday. I watched that movie yesterday. Last week. I have visited my cousin last week. I visited my cousin last week. Last year. I have traveled to Goa last year. I traveled to Goa last year. In 2024. I have watched that movie in 2024. I watched that movie in 2024.
Notice the pattern? Every sentence contains a specific finish time. Yesterday, last week, last year, in 2024. The time is known. The time is finished. And because of that, simple past wins every time.
Let's imagine you're talking to a friend about movies. Your friend asks, have you seen the new action movie? Now listen carefully. You can answer, yes, I have seen it. That's perfectly natural. Why? Because you're talking about your experience. You're not mentioning when. The exact time isn't important.
But then your friend asks, really? When did you see it? Now the conversation changes. The word when is asking for a specific time. So you answer, I saw it last Friday. Not, I have seen it last Friday. Because once last Friday enters the sentence, we move into the world of I did.
Amy, let's imagine a Monday morning conversation. A coworker asks, did you do anything interesting this weekend? You reply, yes, I watched 2 movies. I cleaned my apartment. I visited my cousin. Everything sounds natural because you're talking about a finished weekend. Now imagine the coworker asks, have you ever seen that famous science fiction movie? Suddenly, the focus changes. Now they're asking about your life experience. So you say, yes, I have seen it. No specific time, no problem.
And that's the key difference. One question asks, when? The other asks, have you ever? And the tense changes because the purpose changes.
So here's the easiest memory trick. If you see words like yesterday, last night, last week, last month, last year, in 2024, when I was a child, think I did.
And if there's no specific past time, and you're talking about experience, life updates, or a result now, think I have done.
That's it. That's the mistake learners make most often. And once you start noticing these time words,
you'll catch the error immediately. Exactly. And now it's time to see if Emma and Daniel have learned anything from today's lesson. Let's find out. Because they're about to have another conversation. And hopefully this time, their grammar survives the weekend.
Hey, Daniel. How was your weekend?
It was great, actually. I did something I haven't done in a long time. I took a short trip to the mountains.
Really? That sounds amazing. Where did you go?
I went to a small town about 3 hours away. The views were incredible, and the weather was perfect.
Nice. When did you leave?
I left early Saturday morning. What about you? What did you do?
I stayed in the city. I cleaned my apartment on Saturday, and then I watched a couple of movies.
Sounds relaxing. Have you ever watched that new action movie everyone's talking about?
Yes, I have seen it.
Really? When did you watch it?
I watched it on Saturday night. Honestly, it was much better than I expected.
I've heard good things about it. I haven't seen it yet.
You should definitely watch it.
Besides movies, what else did you do?
Not much. I cooked some food, finished a few things for work, and enjoyed a quiet weekend.
That sounds nice. I've worked so much lately that a quiet weekend sounds perfect right now.
Same here. Have you finished that big project you were working on?
Yes, I have finished it.
That's great news!
It feels good to finally say that. I worked on it for almost 2 months.
When did you finish it?
I finished it last Thursday, just before the deadline.
That must have been a huge relief.
It really was.
Speaking of food, did you try anything interesting during your trip?
Yes! I found a small restaurant in the town and had some amazing local food.
That sounds delicious.
Have you ever tried homemade mountain-style soup?
No, I haven't.
Then you need to try it someday. It was one of the best meals I've had all year.
Now I'm hungry.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. I made pasta at home, so I can't complain.
When did you make it?
Sunday evening. I wanted something simple after a busy weekend.
You know, I think traveling helps me reset mentally.
I completely agree. Have you ever traveled alone?
Yes, I have traveled alone a few times.
Really? How was it?
At first, it felt strange, but eventually I loved it. You get to choose your own schedule and explore at your own pace.
That sounds interesting. I've never traveled alone.
You should try it at least once.
Maybe I will.
So, are you planning anything for next weekend?
Not yet. I haven't made any plans.
Fair enough.
What about you?
I think I'll stay home. I traveled this weekend, so I'd rather relax next weekend.
That's probably a good idea.
Besides, I've already spent enough money for 1 month.
That's always the problem with traveling.
Very true.
Well, at least it sounds like we both had good weekends.
We definitely did.
All right, everyone. It's time to go back to the quiz from the beginning of today's episode. Do you remember the question? Imagine you're talking about a movie you watched yesterday. Which sentence sounds correct? A, I have watched it yesterday. Or B, I watched it yesterday. Take one more second to think about it. Ready?
The correct answer is I watched it yesterday. Because yesterday is a specific finished time in the past. And whenever we mention a specific finished time, we normally use I did.
Exactly. Yesterday, last night, last week, last month, last year. All of these time expressions usually belong to I did. So, I watched that movie yesterday. I visited my cousin last weekend. I cleaned my apartment last Saturday. Those all sound natural.
But if we remove the specific time, then present perfect becomes possible. For example, I have watched that movie. Now we're talking about experience, not about when it happened.
All right, it's your turn to speak. If you're walking, driving, or relaxing at home. Repeat after us. And don't worry about being perfect. Just focus on speaking confidently. Ready?
Repeat. I watched a movie last night. I cleaned my apartment yesterday. I visited my friend last weekend. Excellent. Now let's switch to present perfect.
Repeat. I have watched that movie. I have cleaned my apartment. I have already eaten. Great job.
Now let's practice two very common questions. Repeat. Have you ever visited another country? When did you visit another country? Notice the difference. One asks about experience, and the other asks about a specific time.
Exactly. Let's do one final round. Repeat. I watched that movie last Friday. I have watched that movie. Have you ever seen that movie? When did you see that movie? Fantastic. You're sounding more natural already. Well, everyone, that brings us to the end of today's episode. And hopefully, I did and I have done don't feel nearly as confusing anymore.
Just remember this simple idea. I did usually talks about a finished action at a specific time in the past, and I have done usually talks about experience, life updates, or a result that matters now.
Now, we'd love to hear from you. Head down to the comments and complete today's challenge. Write one sentence using I did, one sentence using I have done, and answer this question. Have you ever visited another country? Tell us about your experience. We'd love to read your answers.
And don't worry about making mistakes. Every sentence you write is another step toward becoming a more confident English speaker.
Thank you so much for spending time with us today. Keep listening, keep practicing, keep speaking, and most importantly, keep enjoying the journey.
We'll see you in the next episode. Take care, everyone.
Bye, everyone, and keep learning English one conversation at a time.